information.
I folks, we're going to get started here. I don't hit the gavel, so I've never hit the gavel in 15 years, so you'll get the whistle. So anyway, we're going to get started. Appreciate you all being here. It looks like there's quite a number of people here this evening, so we welcome you here, and we look forward to hearing what your concerns are. So in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state on June the 12th, 2014, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township bulletin board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting, and I would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Father, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Coggins?
Here.
Mr. Sarah?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mr. Palumbo?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay. I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the best renditions of the Pledge of Allegiance we've had in a long time, so we don't normally have the amount of folks here for the meeting, so thank you for your being a part of the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Rob, do you have anything for us this evening?
I just have one quick announcement. Just wanted to remind everyone that the township offices will be closed for July 4th. We will be having a parade in Strathmere beginning at 10:30 a.m. and the township will also be extending the festivities over to Amanda's Field for a concert and other festivities there that Mr. Young, I'm sure, will go into in detail. That begins at 4:30 in the afternoon. That's all I have this evening.
Okay. Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but we do have a handful of closed session items.
Okay. Paul?
Good evening. I do have a couple of things. First, I just wanted to give a committee an update on the beach show. We got good news this afternoon that the federal government and the Department of Environmental Protection signed the project partnership agreement today. So that gave the full authorization for the project to move forward. They're anticipating advertising the project in August and then awarding the project sometime in October. So that project is moving full steam ahead, which is good news for us.
And we are monitoring the day-to-day what's going on over in Strathmere, right on the north end there?
Yes.
Rocks.
Yes. And then I just want to give an update on the...
Before we get to that, I just want to make sure that you develop a contingency plan in the event that we should have a storm prior to having that beach replenishment. So we need to make sure that we can quickly do something on a temporary fix in the event that we would have, and let's hope that we don't have some kind of tropical storm or whatever, but we need to make sure that we're ready for that.
I have spoken to an emergency contractor that we would be able to reach out to that's done work for us on an emergency basis up on the beach, and they should be able to mobilize fairly quickly if we call upon them.
Okay.
I just want to give you an update on the housing rehab program. As you know, the township was required to have 14 housing rehab, and they're just in the process of completing the 14th one. So that phase of the project is winding down, and we'll be in compliance with that aspect of our fair share plan. And that's all I had this evening.
Okay. Barbara?
Couple things. First off, I would like committee approval if you feel the desire. The Township Employee Picnic is going to be Thursday, July 10th, and just looking for approval for a $500 cost to go towards that picnic. And if you all agree, I just need a motion to that effect.
And that's for the annual picnic that we have?
Correct.
I'll make that motion. Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
What was that date again?
Thursday, July 10th. I'm not sure of the time, but we'll send notices out on that. The other thing that I had was As some of you know, I had put out RFQs for our actuarial services. We received those back last week. We had 3 companies respond, with the low bidder being $2,900 for our full actuarial report for 2013, and then going forward, it would be $960 for every other year we would have the report. So just need approval, if you would, to accept that as well.
Motion approved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, that's all I had this evening.
Okay. Mr. Coggins?
Nothing to report this evening.
Okay. Mr. Young?
Yeah, Barbara already touched on our 4th of July celebration at Amanda's Field this year. The township is trying to put together a community day. As of right now, we have sponsorships coming in. Everything is going to be paid by sponsors. All monies that we receive, as well as all monies raised in the refreshment stand, will go toward our Challenger Sports Program, which is our program for special needs children. We'd like to get everybody out there. At this time, we have refreshment stands being run and taken care of by all the recreation programs in this township. They all got together and they're working as a group on it and making great headway. It's going to be a good day there for them. We're going to have free pony rides for all kids. We're also going to have free face painting for all the kids. We've got a big 3-in-1 bouncy that's going to be there for all the kids. It's free. I have a kettle corn vendor coming in. All children under 12 will receive free kettle corn. Chocolate Face Cupcakes is coming in, and she's going to donate 50 cents for every cupcake to our Challenger program. And there's a few other people that have been calling, looking to come in with us also. That'll be started around 3 o'clock. And at 4:30, we're going to have a concert with a local band by the name of Suspended. They'll play for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. At that time, the people that are doing the face painting, which was party painters,
Yes.
local residents again, they also have all the superheroes, Cinderella, they're coming in with all their characters. We have the Cinderella carriage coming, and we'll have pictures available for anybody that wants to sit with picture taken with Cinderella. Intermission for the concert, she's coming in with Elsa from Frozen. For anybody who's got little grandchildren or little kids, you know that's a rage right now. We will be doing a sing-along at halftime with Elsa, with the theme of the Frozen the movie, as well as the action figures doing some kind of a routine. That'll be followed by another local band, I'm about to say it's my cousin. He just released the 2nd CD, he's traveling the whole Eastern Seaboard. That's the Kenny Young Band, Southern rock style music, and he will be playing until about 8:30, 8:45. At that point, we're going to have a honor guard committee of Boy Scouts present the flag. We will have the Veterans of Foreign Wars there, and Kenny will be doing some patriotic songs. And at that time, we want all the veterans that are attending the fireworks to come forward and stand and be honored. The concert will end with a 21-gun salute by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And then the fireworks will be immediately following that within probably half an hour. Again, all this is free except for the food. So we hope we get everybody out there and make this a great community event, that we can do this again next year and make it bigger and better. Anybody that's here in my childhood, remember, we always had this every year at the Tuckahoe Township Hall with vendors and games for the kids, fireworks, community following. It was a great day. So this is to try to get a little more community spirit back into this township and bring everybody together for just a day of getting to talk to each other and enjoying a good day. Sports and women's football is going well. I've been working hand in hand with the Ocean City High School coaches. They'll be coming over to the clinics, which is something we're really happy to see, and sports is rolling along, so we're good. That's it.
You're doing a great job. We're looking forward to July 4th. Thanks. Mr. and Sarah.
Not with this one.
Okay. Mr. Barr?
I was just working along with Hobie on a plan this week, July celebration with the parking and traffic issues, so we're having a all reports.
Okay, so I have a couple things. One, let's stay with the July 4th theme. We will have our deuce and a half OEM truck painted and ready to roll. So the five of us, or whoever is able to attend, will be driving in the new, not the new, it is something that we had gotten from military surplus, but have painted it and have taken it on as our ownership in the event of another emergency comparable to Hurricane Sandy. We'll have this large Army truck that will be painted, it's already painted, has the OEM insignia on it, and so that's what we'll be riding in the Strathmere Parade. Besides that, we have also gotten a commitment to receive a heavy tow truck from Army surplus. A lot of the equipment is coming back from, obviously, the wars of Iraq. Unfortunately, there's things going on there, but the equipment's coming back, and there's an opportunity for emergency management to get some of that equipment. We have also been able to secure a self-contained cooking unit. It's a trailer, something that we actually could have used during Hurricane Sandy. We had a number of evacuees in both of our schools. We were utilizing the kitchens from the schools, but having the opportunity to utilize a trailer as well for cooking for the residents and those that have evacuated that use our facility will be a great asset. And then we also have worked out something with the state troopers where we hope to be obtaining 2 Humvees that will be used in the event of an emergency for both the township and also in partnership with the state troopers. The agreement is that we'll house them, that we'll allow them to the state troopers if they have other needs beyond emergency, but during emergency they'll be ours to use at our disposal. So, it's a way of recycling the equipment that's used in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and so we're taking advantage of that, as well as other towns are doing the same thing. So that's all I have for now, and I'm hoping that all of you, as Hobie said, just to reiterate, that there's a lot planned starting in the morning in Strathmere with the parade there. It is definitely something that you haven't seen it. It's something to definitely go. It's a lot of fun, and we'll hope to have a lot of fun over at Mansfield as well. The rain date is Saturday? Okay, so Hobie says the rain date will be Saturday, July 5th, but never rains in Upper Township, so we'll have July 4th as planned. Okay, so we have actually this evening a couple very unique presentations. The first one being an Eagle Scout, and it's great that you're all here. We have been very fortunate over the years to have a number of Eagle Scout recipients in the township, and they work and do projects in the township to work towards their Eagle Scout badge. And this evening, we are going to honor Ryan Casey. And I'd like to ask Ryan to come up, please, and I will read the resolution to him. So it says Ryan Casey of Troop 79, Seaville, has recently achieved the designation of Eagle Scout and Boy Scouts of America. The Township of Upper wishes to acknowledge this outstanding accomplishment. The Township Committee hereby extends its sincere congratulations to Ryan on the occasion of receiving the designation of Eagle Scout and commends him for this outstanding accomplishment and completion of his Eagle Scout project, consisting of renovating the Gold Star Mother's Monument at the entrance to the Cape May County Veterans Cemetery and creating a reflection area in the rear of the cemetery. Ryan raised $5,850 to fund the project through private donations and sponsorships from various organizations, including the North Wildwood Elks, Veterans of Foreign War, the American Legion, and the Marine Corps League. The deteriorating red brick base of the monument was replaced with a granite base, and the plaque was refurbished with gold leafing. The reflection area was created by replacing the asphalt with decorative pavers and planting shrubs. Now, the Township Committee extends its sincere congratulations and best wishes to Ryan's parents, his family and friends on this happy occasion, and then we also extend our congratulations and appreciation to the Scoutmasters
and others who give so freely and generously of their time for the benefit of our youth. Well, I'll ask you to come back so that we can certainly honor you. And round of applause, please. Over the years, I've learned that to achieve an Eagle Scout, only 2% of all those that have been in the Boy Scouts ever achieved that. So it is a very high honor. It is something that certainly colleges recognize. We have many elected officials that have been Eagle Scout, and so maybe someday you might consider, running for public office in the future. But whatever the case may be, it's a great accomplishment. It shows a lot of intuitiveness and a lot of real hard work by Ryan to achieve this goal. So we really want to congratulate you. So, thank you. Congratulations. It's a great honor. And he also has Order Our Life, is that what it is? And that's for those that cross for the Weed Love. So he has been through this all through Cub Scouts and into Boy Scouts. So it's a great job. Thank you. Of course, my computer decided to time out on me here. Okay, so the next thing we want to honor is for those of you that don't know or haven't heard, we had a very serious accident off of the Parkway Bridge about a month or so ago, where a dump truck tried to avert hitting another car and ultimately fell backwards into the bay. And there were a number of folks that saved this gentleman's life, the driver's life, by first the construction workers that are there creating the new Parkway Bridge, and then also by our Memorial Fire Company who were first on the scene. And between their efforts, this gentleman lived. And it's pretty hard to believe because he dropped a significant amount of feet off of the Parkway Bridge. The truck was totally submerged. The construction workers thought quickly to jump in the water with a hammer and broke the window and was able to secure the gentleman's head so that he was able to breathe. He was seat belted, and so they needed some assistance from the Memorial Fire Company. But it was a huge effort, and we're honoring those that this township considers heroes because they actually saved someone's life and did it with high risk for themselves, because at that time the water temperature was probably close to 50 degrees, other than what it is now. So, but without thinking, without hesitation, they went in and saved this gentleman's life. So, what I want to do is first call up. I'm going to turn it over to Ed because I know you have been involved with public safety. You have worked with a number of the folks. But I think we should do, if we could, is honor the construction officers first. We have obviously a number of the Memorial Fire Company individuals here. Let's bring up the construction workers first. We'll honor them, and then we'll honor the fire company as well. And I think it's very fitting, and hopefully we can honor these folks.
May I first call up Jason Armbruster and Aaron Grace.
All right, you guys are, an amazing duo. What you did was, just did anything you possibly could to save someone's life. So here's what we'd like to read to you. This is the resolution for both of you. Whereas on an extraordinary occasion, ordinary citizens find themselves face to face with life and death situations. A select few, when faced with a choice to help or stand by, choose to come to the assistance of their fellow man, performing their selfless acts of heroism with great courage. On Friday, May 23, 2014, Jason Armbruster, and Aaron Grace, both dock builders at the Route 52 bridge, from the Route 52 Bridge Company, were thrown into just a situation where they witnessed a large commercial dump truck lose control, plunge 40 feet off the Garden State Parkway Bridge into the water below, trapping the injured driver in approximately 8 to 9 feet of water in the Great Egg Harbor Bay. In the moments immediately following this horrific accident, Jason and Aaron and a fellow worker, without thought of their own safety, entered the water and smashed the dump truck's windshield with a hammer to free the injured driver. Holding the driver's head out of the water, while first responders from Memorial Fire Company quickly worked to free his trapped leg. Jason's quick and selfless act of courage, and Aaron's, saved the driver's life, and it's just fitting that we commend and celebrate the exceptional character and heart of these heroes. So therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Upper that we extend to Jason and Aaron our heartfelt gratitude and admiration for this brave act of heroism. We'd like to You know, in an emergency, sometimes you just do things to help people, but there is also those that, may be apprehensive for whatever reason, where, they may not feel comfortable or even jeopardize their own lives in the effort to try and save someone. These two gentlemen thought nothing of any of that, and without hesitation jumped into the water. And that man's here today that they saved because of that. So I can't thank them enough. You're helping us get a new bridge so that we can continue to safely go up and down the parkway, and on top of that, which in itself helps with public safety, but on top of that, you performed a heroic event, and for that, we greatly appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Great job, guys. We're looking forward to seeing the bridge, too.
We also have a number of first responders. If I could, the Deputy Chief McIntyre, Captain DJ Young, Firefighter Matthew Long, and Firefighter Mark Newman.
Congratulations, guys. I'd like to read this resolution for the four of you for your efforts in this whole rescue. Let's get these papers off here. Whereas the Township of Upper has the finest fire companies and emergency medical services in the state of New Jersey, the brave men and women who volunteer to serve our community as first responders faithfully and diligently execute their duties with skill and dedication, saving lives and property, and bringing order, calm, and security to those who may be experiencing the most traumatic event of their life. On Friday, March 23, 2014, just an event occurred when members of the Memorial Fire Company received a call that a large commercial dump truck had lost control and plunged 40 feet off the Garden State Parkway Bridge into the water below, trapping the injured driver in approximately 8 to 9 feet of water. Memorial Deputy Chief Jeff McIntyre, DJ Young, Matthew Long, and Mark Newman responded to the call, and in the moments immediately following the horrific accident arrived on the scene. After quickly and expertly assessing the situation, the four firemen, without regard to their own safety, entered the water along with the Memorial Engine 1530 crew where they quickly worked to free the victim's entangled legs, place him on a longboard in Stokes basket while still in the water, and then transferred him to the waiting Upper Township Rescue and Atlantic Care paramedics crew. Based on the injuries the victim suffered, he would not have survived his injuries had not the 4 Marmora firemen and their crew from the Marmora Engine 1530 extricated him as quickly as they did. So therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee that we extend to the 4 firemen, again, Deputy Chief Jeff McIntyre, DJ Young, Matthew Long, Mark Newman of the Volunteer Fire Company, our heartfelt gratitude and admiration for quick life-saving actions on the day and for the selfless and heroic acts these men and their fellow men and women, first responders, perform every day. So congratulations, guys. Very nice. So, again, these are volunteers for this township, and they always think of our lives, not of their lives. And it's not, and I don't want to disregard the other 3 fire companies we have, because all 4 of them work extremely hard to make sure that we can sleep comfortably at night, knowing that if there was an issue and was a problem, these folks are there to protect us. We can sleep easier at night knowing that they're there. And I got to tell you, the amount of dedication that not only Marmora and the other Tuckahoe, Seaville, and Strathmere Fire Company give to this community is, beyond words, beyond dedication, and beyond volunteerism. So I think we all really owe them another round of applause. What they did. I think if you wouldn't mind, I'll indulge. Chief Newman, you want to say a few words on behalf of the firefighters, and please include the first responders. And I apologize, my rest squad is, and Mike, you want to aim a few words, because Mr. Newman has a tendency to go all the way.
Why is everybody mumbling? Come on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. As we're honoring the 4 firefighters and the 2 construction workers that helped on that day, a lot more went into it than just what you saw. These are the people that happened to go into the water, and without regard to their own safety. It was probably one of the most amazing days you'll see in my over 30 years of public service. The truck had fallen approximately 40 feet from the Parkway Bridge, landed backwards and on its passenger side. 2 gentlemen from the construction crew jumped in the water, were able to free the driver and get his head out of the water so he could breathe. That doesn't take anything away from the rest of the guys that were there helping as well, because without them, those guys wouldn't have been able to be there. And if you think about it, if there wasn't a construction project there, they probably would not have made it. If he hadn't landed at the base of the 90-ton crane, he might not have had a shot. If he had landed in the channel, I don't think he would have made it. It was absolutely, without a doubt, like I said, one of the most amazing days. And that brings us up to the firefighters here that were there and quickly assessed the situation and decided that they needed to all geared up and have turnout gear, take their turnout gear off, get into the water, and assist this man. He was still trapped with his legs underneath the seat. We don't know how he was trapped, but after several attempts, they were able to get him out and hand him off to some of the other gentlemen who were here. But without that, without the supporting crews, some of them were sitting out there behind you, they would be able to do what they did. So it's not just these 4, there's 2, it's the whole system and the whole operation. And it just worked. And I see Trooper Damiani in the back there. He's a lifelong township resident, and he Also was there in charge of the state police that particular day. And I talked to him a little bit afterwards, and he just said the cooperation on that day on a multi-agency response was phenomenal. We had at least a dozen different agencies there that cooperated fully to take care of this incident, and it made a difference in the man's life. To this day, the man is still recovering at this time. And as the mayor said, some people have said over the years, well, you guys did a great job on that fire, a great job on that accident. Well, this doesn't happen overnight. This is years and years and years of planning and coming up with procedures and training and doing it over and over again. We were there, we were dispatched, the dispatch was involved, the firefighters were involved, EMS crews that were right there as the victim was being brought out of the water, there to take them there. The helicopter that landed on time, the paramedics that were there. This goes on day in and day out, folks. We just happen to be highlighting it. So, without a doubt, it doesn't make a difference which fire company you're involved with. Very proud of these guys, obviously, because they're part of more fire companies. But if you go to any one of the fire companies in this township, or the squad, rescue squad, both Division of EMS and Upper Township Rescue, it is amazing what goes on a daily basis. On a daily basis, while you're all sleeping, just for a quick example, while you're all sleeping the other night, when that thunderstorm came through, we had 2 fires in the township and an EMS call, all handled, okay, at 3 o'clock in the morning, while everybody was sleeping. We said, wow, that was a big bang. What goes on in the town and what the residents and visitors to this town are receiving. Professional quality service day in and day out. Not only this town, but throughout the county and the state, firefighters, EMS personnel, and the police personnel are out there to assist you. So we thank you for your support. We thank you guys for coming up, for doing above and beyond. We kind of got done with this and said, wow, what just happened? And those guys jumped in the water. If there hadn't been a construction project, this guy, a couple feet this way or the other way, that truck would have been smashed and done with. It's a miracle to get one of the guys on the construction crew. How big was the splash, Aaron or Jason? Pretty big? I mean, it was pretty amazing to see a dump truck come over that bridge. If these guys hadn't been trained, if these guys hadn't decided to get up and get out of, DJ, you were probably sleeping. Out of bed or jump up from the job and go do this, where would we be? If they had decided to train on this years and years to get where they are, if they had decided to join the fire company or take EMS classes, where would we be? So,
I mean, as I recall, I was on site as well. At the time, since they weren't able to talk to the gentleman and get the information, there was a possibility that could have been potentially a passenger that they hadn't accounted for. So that had to also be researched to make sure that there wasn't someone there as well. There was divers there and everything. So, it's to complement, end to end, all of you do, on the rescue. And I hope I didn't shortchange the rescue squad because, bar none, I want to make sure that they have their kudos as well too. So, but great job by the 4 of you and all of you, and again, all of our fire rescue individuals, our EMS, our Upper Township Rescue Squad, and our state troopers that also are very dedicated to this community. So thank you again.
They brought a lot of people.
We have the crew team here too. congratulatory presentation to make this evening. We're congratulating the Ocean City High School JV crew team on becoming the 2014 Scholastic Rowing Association of America Regatta champions. Speaking from a parent of two sons that rowed in high school and one that coached high school crew, I know the dedication that it takes to be on a crew team, and not only by the crew members, but their parents as well. So this is a great honor, and certainly something that we need to recognize as well. So whereas the Ocean City High School JV boys crew team participated in the Scholastic Rowing Association of America, at Mercer Lake in West Windsor on May 24, 2014. The crew boat beat 17 of the best boats from across the country to win the SRAA championship in their category. The team dedicated their victory to Tara Miller, who was suffering from stage 4 cancer and was the inspiration for the team, encouraging them to live life to the fullest. Whereas it is appropriate that on behalf of the citizens of Upper Township, we recognize and congratulate the rowers listed as follows. Chase Devlin, who was the coxswain, Nicholas DeMarco, Evan Nathan, Christian McDermott, Christian Bumgarner, Colin Stewart, Michael Daddy, Eric Lamb, Ryan Fisher. Whereas we also extend this recognition and thanks to John Miller and to Mike Miller, who have generously given their personal time and service to coach this team, that the Township Committee, on behalf of the citizens of the Township of Upper, to extend to the Ocean City High School JV boys crew team, congratulations on becoming the 2014 SRAA National Champions, and to each coach, heartfelt thanks and gratitude for the generous donation of their time and service to the young people of this community. So we would ask you boys to come up, and we can honor you for a great... Please join us, coaches. Congratulations. Congratulations, great job. I feel very smart. I'm like the 12th of the committee, and I'm like nowhere near the
Actually, your gentleman's taller than Rich now.
Great job. Good job. I'm a big fan of crew. My nephew rows for Drexel, so I know the dedication that you do for this sport. Going out there in February when the water's cold and the wind's blowing at your face, I know how much you guys did, and you know what? You represented us very well on the national scene, and that is the best honor that any of you could have achieved for Upper Township. So thank you again for all that you do, and you guys, and all the dedications. We hope that you win the varsity, though. I'll be watching, so that, but we got big expectations now, so congratulations. We got to get everybody in here. We got to make sure we get a nice picture of everybody. Perfect. Okay, great job, guys. I like it. You like it? Yeah. Nice. Good job. Okay, well, who else here? There you go. Who's in the stroke? Oh, very nice. Yeah. How's those hurt times? See, I actually know what you got hurt. Here's the thing. I would call Bill.
Mike Miller. Everyone got one, right?
All right.
They didn't include you.
You put in the vote? Not really.
Now, here it is. I see you in church, so I know you'll do.
We will take care of it. Thank you, guys. Does any other folks want to take pictures of these guys, or?
No, I just want to say that,
Go ahead.
this group of guys, like, I've been coaching crew for over 15 years, and every once in a while you get a special group of guys. Any adults out there that have ever coached, and you just feel it. And with these guys, you feel it. They didn't win one big regatta until the end. And they never quit, they never quit, they never quit. And if you have a business and you want to hire someone, these are your guys. They just don't know how to quit. And I enjoyed every minute. And then they're emotional too. You know, I coached a guy at St. Augustine Prep who is dating a girl dying of cancer. And I just didn't think anything of it. I told him the story, and like 3 days later, their parents told me they really took to it. Like, these guys have a lot of emotion, a lot of heart, and they really did well the national championship final for this girl dying of cancer. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for not just doing it for themselves, but for somebody in need of help, and they deserve a round of applause.
Thank you, guys, really. Best of luck. Keep those overtime. Go ahead. You know, before we move on to the resolutions, I also would be remiss if I didn't congratulate the graduates of Ocean City High School. The seniors graduated on Friday, and 8th grade just graduated today. I had the honor of being at both of them, and you know, it really is refreshing to see, you know, what our youths are doing with their lives. The seniors. It's a great bunch of kids. They're all, you know, matriculating into college. Our 8th graders are, I'm sure, looking very forward to going to Ocean City High or whatever high school they decide to choose. But what I can tell you is that in both graduations, the kids were all smiling and happy and looking forward to their future. So we're very fortunate to have two very good school systems for our children. So congratulations to them as well. So with that, Barbara, I'll ask you to move on to the resolutions, please.
Item number 4 under resolutions, congratulating Brock Zarowski on winning the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Association Eastern National Championship.
Move the resolution. Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 5, congratulating Charlie Pasadena on placing second in the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Association Eastern National Championship.
Move the resolution. Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, congratulating Nick Layton on placing 8th in the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Association Eastern National Championship.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 7, resolution and certification with respect to the 2013 annual audit and in compliance with the local finance board of the state of New Jersey.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Okay. Anything we should know in particular? Dan?
I'll defer to Barb. There are a couple items that required correction, but beyond that, it was nothing major.
So generally speaking, we had a good audit, and everything was fine?
Yes.
Okay, great. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 8, authorizing the mayor to sign a special use system map delivery and non-disclosure agreement with the New Jersey American Water Company.
Move the resolution.
Second for discussion. Anything you need to know about this?
This is a request from our OEM. They need the data for safety reasons, and New Jersey American has no problem providing it, but obviously they want a confidentiality agreement. The agreement does cover our responsibilities under public records. There is a pre-notice if someone asks for any of this information. We would have to give notice to New Jersey American so that if they thought it was confidential and shouldn't be disclosed, they could take the appropriate action. But it's a mapping system for safety reasons.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 9, renewal of an alcoholic consumption license to Lavari Land for the license year commencing July 1st, 2014.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, appointment of Louis A. Bonato as an appraiser for the Township of Upper.
Move the resolution.
Second.
And this memorialized the discussion we had at the last meeting.
It was actually a closed session discussion on negotiation. This is an appraiser that the township hires to evaluate land that is undersized and adjacent owners would like to purchase it to incorporate it into their existing parcels. We have a lot of undersized lots throughout the township.
Okay, would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, appointing the 2018 season beach patrol.
Resolution.
Second.
Okay, and before we vote on this, well, it looks like you took off Amy. They took off Amy's?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's vote on this, and then I have another request, because, let's vote on this first. So we have Aaron Holbach, Chris Walden, Ryan Fisher, and Colin Stewart. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay, so one of our rookies that had qualified decided to take on another opportunity. Wait, you're saying, so there is, going down the ranking, there's an additional individual, his name is Chris Wolf, and they are looking to be able to have him hired and to be able to work for rookie school so that they're ready, obviously, for the July 4th weekend and
Chris-
moving forward.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Chris Walton?
Wolf.
Wolf, okay.
So, I guess what I'm asking is kind of the same thing we did in the last time is that the flexibility of having this individual come in, and then we'll officially do the resolution next, at the next meeting, Otherwise, if we don't, they're going to have to go through 2 rookie camps, and they'll be behind. And it could also shortchange the amount of individuals we have on the beach for training, so, please.
And it's obviously subject to pre-employment
Yes.
testing and...
Right, all the qualifications that need to be before you can be applied. Let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coble? Yes. Mr. Impair? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, authorizing execution of an NJDEP TWA 1 application statements of consent form regarding 14 Randolph Avenue in Strathmere, Block 829, Lot 4.02.
Well, why don't we move, I'll move the resolution, and looking for a second for discussion. Paul, can you explain to us, I understand that this is not approval for anything. This is just saying that the Township Committee, there's no restriction based on our ordinances, and that it would be the responsibility of the county and those kind of individuals to make that determination.
Correct. Right. This has become almost a standard thing in Strathmere to get an approval for a septic system because of the various distance requirements and requirements of Chapter 9A, that they cannot meet the normal standards that allows the county health department to approve the septic system. So what they have to apply for is a treatment works approval. As part of the treatment works approval, one of the steps in the application form is getting the consent from the municipal authority. And typically for treatment works approval, they're for the larger sewer systems and treatment facilities, and that approval, or the consent, is usually granted by the municipal utilities authority. But in this case, because it's a septic system, that consent comes to the Township Committee, and essentially the consent is just acknowledging or confirming back to the DEP that the project does not conflict with any other municipal ordinances that we may have. I have reviewed the plan. The plan as shown in the plot plan does conform to all our zoning requirements as far as setbacks and coverages. We did receive a letter from several residents in the neighborhood, raising some concerns regarding that. They have received a CAFRA permit for their project, so they do have their DEP approval, and they have an approval from the Army Corps of Engineers. Even though all of these permits, would have been reviewed before the treatment works approval would be received, as well as, they would have been standard conditions before they would receive a construction permit, that they would need a treatment works approval, or a county health department approval, or the CAFRA permit, and any other governmental approvals that may be required to construct the residence.
And Dan, this isn't anything different than what we've done in the past.
We do it a number of times a year for different properties in Strathmere. It says Paul indicated they obviously have, let's say, 6,000 square foot lot. The county requires 35.
Well, most of the companies, it's not, you require 35,000 square feet for minimal water quality standards, but most of the reason why they're here is a lot of it is setback issues. You need 50 feet between septic systems, you need 10 foot to property lines, you also need 10 foot from the building to the septic tank, and then 25 feet from the building to the disposal bed. So obviously, there's nowhere in Strathmere that can you comply with any of those parameters. There's also,
But let's be clear, that is a county health and a DEP requirement. It's not a township requirement.
Right.
What the DEP requests, and I'll read it to you, the form that they're asking you to complete, it says, I certify that the project as proposed conforms to the requirements of municipal ordinances. Basically, they're trying to find out, they're going to deal with their ordinances, or their regulations, what Paul just described, and they're going through that process, but they want to know, is there variance, is it permitted use, are they allowed to build there, is there any township ordinances that are being violated? And in the past, we said, look, if you can satisfy the DEP, you can build your house as long as it conforms with our ordinances, and that's all you're doing. You're saying, yes, we consent, we understand your application is going to be submitted, and we reviewed it, and it doesn't violate any of our ordinances. The letter we received, frankly, misstated that there was a township ordinance that requires septic, but it's really a township ordinance for major subdivisions. If someone came in with a large tract of land, wanted to subdivide, that's what that township ordinance is about. It's not an isolated individual lot. As I said, I would say at least twice a year, we get a request like this.
At
It's
least.
routine out of Strathmere because they can't get a new septic system without it.
Yes, we've already had one or two this year already.
And everything's subject, our approval is subject to all the approvals necessary, DEP, CAFR.
Again, this isn't an approval. This is just an acknowledgement to DEP that variances and this application does not violate any of our ordinances. They still have to come in and get a building permit for their building and...
I mean, before a construction permit can be issued, they have to receive all other governmental approvals, which the treatment works approval will ultimately be one of those approvals that they have to get.
Just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I do. There were two other violations of township, or potential violations of township ordinances that were mentioned in this letter. And I'm just wondering how this relates to the on-site disposal systems be located to avoid contamination from flooding. And then the other one cites a wildlife issue in one of our ordinances. Now, is this something that would be in conflict with either one of them based on?
Not in my opinion. I think it's a misread of our ordinances.
I would agree.
It's not, we're not the issuing authority for septic tanks
Okay.
or water treatment.
So the flooding doesn't apply in this instance?
We don't have jurisdiction over it. It's the county and the DEP.
Okay, so it's not a township ordinance then?
He cites a township ordinance, but that's not what it's applicable to. It's not applicable to the septic approval of the township.
Right, because we can't regulate where a septic approval can or can't go under a township ordinance. In other words, the zoning officer can't come in with an application and they've shown a septic system here and we say, oh, you can't put it here because it's a municipal ordinance. We don't have the regulatory authority to control where a septic system goes.
It's about the county, as well as the wells, and the second county,
Right. I mean, the DEP, as part of the treatment works approval process, will examine all those issues because they have those, that's where those statutes are from, or really from Chapter 9A and the underlying regulations that they have to approve upon. As well as when they reviewed it for the CAFR permit, this septic system was shown on their CAFR permit approval. So when they got their CAFR permit, which is the overlying permit approval process by the DEP, they've looked at those issues and they have those same underlying criteria in their regulations.
What about the wildlife issue?
It's not our jurisdiction. Septic systems are not our jurisdiction. We do have a wildlife concern, but you can't act arbitrarily as a governing body or capriciously. So you have to be, if you're going to take that ordinance provision and interpret it that it prohibits septic systems, well, you can't just do it for this property. You have to do it for every property in Strathmere. And it's never been interpreted that way. It's never been the intent of that ordinance. Correct, Paul?
Correct. And when you look at, the flood hazard ordinance, you're protecting the system that, it'll be protected from flooding waters. Because if that was the case, there'd be no septics permitted in Strathmere. This lot is not unique to any of the other lots in that area. And that will be one of the things that Treatment Works approval looks at.
Any other questions? Hearing none, let's call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 13, authorizing a professional services contract with Jersey Web Design and Francis E. Corcoran for the maintenance and development of the Upper Township Internet website and other technology-related tasks.
Second.
Again, this is a discussion we had in closed session and moving it forthright to open session. And if there isn't any other discussion, I'll ask you to call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 14, authorizing the extension of a shared services agreement with the Borough of Woodbine and the Township of Dennis for the sharing of a radar-equipped vehicle for an additional term of 1 year commencing July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015.
Move the resolution. Second.
Okay, and obviously we use this in several locations of the township as an opportunity to help make drivers aware to slow down and follow the speed limit. So, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Nusera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 15, appointing Thomas N. Lonergan as part-time seasonal beach sweeper to the Upper Township Public Works Department.
Move the resolution.
Second.
And this is one of the individuals that will work in conjunction with our three-member team, is that what it is? And they clean the beaches off in the morning from some debris and trash that's left over from a daily basis. So would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 16, authorizing a notice of violation and abatement of nuisance for Block 350, Lot 9, Block 306, Lot 20, Block 10, Lot 177, and Block 414.02, Lot 81, pursuant to Township Code 11-1.
Move the resolution. Second.
And Dan, is there anything in particular we need to know? This is just something that...
No, this is a professional service, this is a notice of violation that the zoning officer has indicated, is that, which one are you on? That's the notice of violation. The notice of violation that the zoning officer has indicated that they have not responded to requests for correction. It's mostly overgrowth. There's one that does have debris that has to be removed, and she's asked for the Township Committee's authority to send a notice that if they don't correct it in 10 days, that we will correct it and charge it back against their taxes.
Okay. So there isn't any other discussion. Moving first and second, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 17, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract with Neil Levenbook Esquire, Todd Rogerio Esquire, and the Levenbook Law Firm for professional consultant services.
Second.
This is a cell tower consultant, because we have at least one tower's coming up, and there's consideration of leasing out long-term the other towers.
Okay. We have a first and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 18, under new business. Benjamin Duncan requests to purchase township-owned property, block 667, lot 7.
I have a conflict on this one, so I think Mr. Briggs is going to take over for the
Okay,
township.
so let the record reflect that Mr. Young is stepping down, and Mr. Briggs is moving in.
Good evening.
Want to give us a little background on this? And Paul, I'm sure you'll add to this as well.
My understanding is that an application was made by an adjacent property owner, a Ben Duncan, whose address is 404 First Avenue in Marmora, to purchase township property known as Block 667, Lot 7. It's a undersized lot, is my understanding, and under the statute, has to be put out for bid, but it only can be contiguous landowners can bid on it. And there are 3 different landowners who have the right to bid on this property. But the first question is before the Township Committee: does the Township Committee want to offer this for sale?
Part of what we require is that we would deed restrict, if the Township Committee so agrees and votes and approves this, we would require the land purchaser to deed restrict it and make it continuous with their property as it exists now, so that there wouldn't be any future opportunity for anyone to come back and develop township property that we have sold to an individual. In some ways, it's certainly a benefit to the township to take some of our isolated lots and put them on the tax maps by having someone put that as a part of the property. But that is something that we have as a caveat or of approval, so that we certainly would require that.
And obviously, the township has that right to do that under the statute. So the procedure would be, if the township were to go forward with this, the statute requires a minimum bid to be set, And then there will be a bidding process open to the applicant, as well as, I believe there are 3 other contiguous landowners in that area.
Right? And Paul, any input on this as well?
Just to note that, that property, we would have no future public need for that property, so that would be, a positive thing to put this back on the tax rolls and make all the lots that are adjacent to that are severely undersized for the zone. So to make any of those lots more conforming would be a positive to the community.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
On this condition, I have a problem.
Okay, so I make a motion, I don't think anyone's made a motion, I'll make a motion to approve moving forward in the process, not the sale, obviously we have to put it out, and ask the other contiguous individuals if they have any interest in it as well. So, and also, that it would have to be deed restricted to be a part of the property as who owns it that is bidding on it. So.
Absolutely. And then the only other thing we require is the ability to retain an appraiser to set the minimum bid.
Okay. So would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Well, thank you, Mr. Briggs.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Briggs is now stepping down and Mr. Young is coming back to his post.
Item number 19, continuing on. Bid opening results for the 2013 or newer refuse collection vehicle for Upper Township.
So it appears we had just one bidder, right?
No, we had 2 bids.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I see. Grand Truck, and then also H.A. The Heart. But the one is significantly lower than the other.
That's correct.
And they bid to meet all the bid specs that were put out.
That's correct. I did have a conversation with our Public Works Supervisor and the head mechanic, our senior mechanic, and they do not recommend the option for the heavy arm. So it would just be for the truck. And then we have a 1% discount if it's paid within 10 days of delivery.
And I guess my question is to you, maybe Mr. Ansara or Mr. Coggins, who have experience in this. I mean, we're in just about 2 months of this new trash collecting system. And do we feel that there's a need for the heavy arm for whatever reason?
The heavy one? No.
So there has not been any issues that the Public Works or anybody would say to us that, we shouldn't be comfortable with going to what is, being,
The one was walked out, it's a specific rule of this. The one question I have, I'm trying to understand, question, again, do we have to go on and buy stuff now? Or could we-
You have 60 days to address it. If you abandon the project, or if you want to substantially revise the specifications, you can reject the bids.
There's no doubt that we need a truck. However, I feel that this time we're probably running to get it somewhat about, get it about, see how it's going to work out, sell, or how it will work out with the truck at the end.
You have 60 days to award the bid, but you have to act within that 60 days. And when was the bid opening?
The bid opening was the 12th, June 12th. So it was...
We've got a little less than 2 weeks.
At this time, I was putting up, just putting the bid, so I have more information, more, and the rest of the bid.
I think more specifically, I think the idea would be to ask the Public Works Department for a report detailing their route grids and manpower assignments now versus what the route grids and manpower assignments will look like subsequent to the delivery of this collection vehicle. And in addition to that, it should also be accompanied by a schedule of disposal of existing assets for the trash trucks that we've kept in the fleet, and we've still got there since we bought, so far we've purchased 3 trucks. We're looking at purchasing a 4th. So with that, we've got some depleted assets in the fleet that we need to put up for auction or sell for scrap value, whichever is higher.
Okay, so here's the thing, and Dan, please let us know from a legal standpoint. had voted to put this out to bid, which was followed, and we have, let's say, 45 days left to approve or reject or whatever. Question is what would be the opportunity for us if it's decided that maybe this truck isn't something we need? Because
It's
my
not something you
understanding-
need? Is that what you said? That is a valid reason. You have the right, we always put it in our bid package that we have the right to reject all bids. However, under law, that's not unqualified. You can't just put out something out to bid and reject all the bids, and then later on decide to go out to bid again, because that produces an unfair bidding process. Then everybody knows what everybody else is bidding, and it becomes a question of collusion and/or trying to rig the bid for someone special. However, if you're going to abandon the project, if you decide after this analysis, we don't need this truck, or we have another direction we want to go, and it's not purchasing such a truck, that is permitted under the law. You can decide to reject all bids for that reason. Same way that if you had a different type of truck that you wanted to go for, you wanted to substantially change the specifications, or if it came in over your estimate, but this did not come in, frankly, I think it came in exactly.
It's just a little under our estimate.
Yeah,
That's correct.
so those are the general reasons that you're permitted to reject bids.
I don't think that we're not gonna need a truck, just we want to be sure that we have everything together.
Well, I guess the other thing that I'm looking at is, I want to make sure that we make it within the time period, right? So 45 days gives us, roughly the 2 meetings in July, and we probably will be coming very close if we waited until the August meeting. And so my question is do you think we'll be able to have that information?
We'll have that information already.
All right, so what I'd like to do then is make sure it's scheduled on the second meeting in July, so that we meet the requirements for the 60-day approval or denial of the bid, and that we will also, by that time, have the information we need to make a real valid opportunity to look at what's there, and we can make an opinion based on the metrics that the Public Works produces for us.
Now, I don't believe there was a motion or a second, but it would probably be better if you had a motion to table it and for it to be re-agendized on the second meeting in July.
Second, would you call the roll?
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Okay.
Item number 20, Deborah S. and Anthony R. Matico, request for a refund of construction permit fees.
Well, I think what happened was they decided to not go ahead with the construction of the pool. And I guess, Paul, is that something that we would routinely do?
That's something we routinely
Yes.
do. The only thing that, they kind of look at what funds have already been expended, and the only thing that can't be refunded is the DCA fee. So that's what you have, a report from your construction official kind of details the amount that they're eligible to get, to receive a refund
So
for.
the review process time is, we keep that.
Correct. I think he's broken down that, he's completed about 20% of the plan review, so he's kind of estimated those costs in his report.
So they'll be reimbursed whatever minus,
His review fees are taken out, and he's suggesting $400 and 40160.
motion approved.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 21, Greater Tuckahoe Area Merchants Association request to hold a kayak raffle at the Upper Township Beach on August 3rd, 2014.
Well, that's at the Tuckahoe Beach or Longmont?
Yes, the Tuckahoe.
Tuckahoe Beach. Motion approved. Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the bills?
Motion approved.
Well, you have to read it.
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment to this meeting be approved and then incorporated in full in the minutes of this meeting.
Second. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cobbins? Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
There are 3 reports from the municipal departments, animal control, municipal court, and green team minutes. Those 3 reports will be available upon request tomorrow at the township clerk's office, but in the meantime, I'll make a motion to accept those reports. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
So this time, we have reached the public comment of the meeting, so that individuals in the public have the opportunity to address the township committee. What I would ask is, and obviously there's a number of individuals here, I'm sure several of you have particular concerns, because quite frankly, we don't normally have this type of attendance, so it's not too hard to figure that out. But you certainly have the ability to come up and tell us and question anything that you feel that you'd like to know about. The only thing I would ask, 2 things. One, when you come up to the microphone, you state your name and your address, because as I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, it is being videotaped. It's a public document, so we need to have your name and your address to be recognized. And the second thing is that we all are courteous with one another, so that I know that there could be supporting people or, on either side, and that we try and not have outbursts or whatever. We just will be courteous to you, as we hope that you will be courteous to us as well. So with that, I will ask the first individual who has his hand up already to address the township committee.
It'll pick you up.
Okay. My name is Richard Fellows. I live in Tuckahoe Village. And I read with great interest in the newspaper that the committee is considering selling an easement in Tuckahoe to the gas company that will render our playing fields there unusable. I don't know how accurate the report was, but part of the report said that those fields are unused, currently unused, and I know that you know they are not unused. They're highly utilized. The Little League plays there, T-ball plays there. Now, it may be, or it may not be, that the Little League now won't have use for that field in the near future because of Amanda's Field and the plans over there, okay? But they are not the only user of those fields. I use those fields. My kids use those fields. Kids in the neighborhood use those fields. There's one little guy, I don't know his name, but he's a wicked fastball. And his brother goes in the outfield, shag flies, and he goes there and he practices. He can't get a ride to Amanda's Field to do that. One of the reasons we bought our house in Tuckahoe is because there were playing fields that we could walk to, that we could ride our bicycles to. That, I think, is a benefit to all the children in Tuckahoe. I really think this is a step in the wrong direction. I mean, urban planning today is moving away from large, centralized complexes. You know, we're not trying to get people in their cars, we're trying to get people out of their cars. So if a kid wants to play baseball in Tuckahoe and these fields are gone, he's going to have to find an adult to drive him to Amanda's Field, if it's available. So I really think it's the wrong way to go. I know that this is for the gas company, to enable the gas company to further their goals, but the gas company will be fine. They'll find a way. In fact, they have a way on Marshall Avenue, but they changed their minds. So, you know, I would urge you to reconsider this, or maybe, I don't think you haven't looked into it, I don't mean that, but I would like to hear what you have to say, and I would really, I urge you to take a closer look. Once those fields are gone, you'll never ever get them back.
Well, I think Mr. Young can certainly elaborate on that more. The one thing I will tell you is that the missing part of what this discussion is that New Jersey Gas has willingly put up funds to mitigate that, to develop the fields at Amanda's Field. Now, I know it's counter to what your argument is, but one of the reasons why we're trying to consolidate into Amanda's Field is to consolidate our costs. It certainly is a lot easier to maintain and have our crew in one centrally located area than it is throughout the township of all 64 square miles of it. What we're trying to do is to centralize some of this so that we can keep a crew there and really work on it all the time to produce, the best we can for the children and anyone else that's involved with sports. Not just children, anybody. I mean, Amanda's Field was designed, it has a walking path, jogging path. I mean, certainly there were all items that were taken in consideration into this project. But I'll let Mr. Young elaborate a little bit, but I think there was also some reasons why they were looking for an easement for that particular property. Now, and I will say that it's no secret, and I'll speak for myself, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, that we are supporting the efforts of putting a pipeline in to keep Beale Inlet open for a number of reasons. One, the potential catastrophic effect it would have on the township if that facility should close. And for whatever reason, right now, it appears from a statute standpoint that we'd be covered from the amount of money that we would receive in energy receipt tax. But that could take a legislative change, and we're trying to plan for the future for those residents that are in the township 15, 20 years from now. That is a significant part of what keeps this township running, and we do not want to lose that.
But that's regardless of whether the plant's in operation. That income is fixed by the legislature, whether the plant's there or not.
But for that legislature that has fixed it, I will tell you that we should be receiving $11 million a year based on the formula that was originally put in place.
Yeah.
And now we receive $6.2 million. And that doesn't mean that things are right or wrong. It only means that we're not receiving what we should get, and there's a legislative way of getting around it. And so we want to ensure that we will never lose that money.
Right. I mean, the legislature can change anything they want, anytime they want. They can change any formula that they want to.
But understand this particular situation, every town, whether they host a generating plant or they don't, receives energy receipts tax.
I do understand that.
And
that's why I think that the talk about the plant closing, I'm not in favor of the plant closing, I'm not against progress, but that's a red herring that has been used, I think, just a little too much. Our property taxes will go through the roof if the plant closes.
probably close to $1,000 a year.
Well, that's counter to what we've been told by the state, by DCA.
All I can tell you is, I don't argue that what you're saying is true at this point.
Yeah.
Okay? But as you stated earlier, a different legislator comes in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and for whatever reason, they're trying to make up and rob Peter to pay Paul. And there's a way that they can change the formula. And by the way, right now, from our understanding, as long as that budget is signed before July 1st, that's the new law of how things are being allocated. So that's why we are not receiving the $5 million extra we're supposed to be getting a year, which has made it difficult for the Township Committee, obviously, to budget things, as well as the residents that are here.
But respectfully, it's got nothing to do with the plan. That's the calculation statewide. Every town is making that complaint, whether they host or not. So I don't want to confuse those things.
We also receive other funds for tax, correct? For the property, is there tax involved?
There is a tax, and it's also reliability. That was the other reason the Township Committee supported it.
Honestly, the question is why did the Township Committee approve the easement for, I guess it's some kind of pump or something? Paul, you're the engineer.
To valving station.
Versus, and taking what's there and using that funds to develop and maintain and ultimately make Amanda's Field the centralized location for all of baseball. But Mr. Young is in charge of recreation, so I'm going to let him, comment as well.
Sure. Having been elected, a lot of the pressure was out there as far as recreation and the cost of recreation. So we looked at ways to consolidate, cut down on the maintenance and the upkeep and the amount of travel we have. You're talking the urban situation, we're 64 square miles. For us to have recreation fields, ball fields in every community, we can't do it. The other way we can help cut the cost on this is to consolidate the fields, increase the playing time on the fields that we're trying to generate. The gas company had looked at quite a few properties in the Tuckahoe area, which I'm sure you're aware of. Many of them had wetlands and DEP problems and were extensive as far as the approvals they might require. We looked at this, the Tuckahoe fields were taking out the equation for our ball fields once we made the field this done. Truthfully, I didn't think about the kids playing a little bit of recreation ball, weekend pickup games, whatever. When I was suggested to maybe Paul and I look at that park and see if there's not room to keep one of the backstops in a small playing area along with it, it would have to be fenced.
But the other thing that we were also looking at, besides the consolidation in the fields leaving, the old municipal hall has been a property that the committee has bantered back and forth about disposing of surplus property. That building, sits vacant and, it's going to have maintenance to upkeep it. We can't sell it outright because it shares that parking lot with, it's all one common use for parking lot for the ball fields and for the building. So, to sell it, you'd almost have to share the parking lot with the tenant that you might try to sell the property to. So it does have an additional advantage that if the township decides to sell the building for surplus property, that it's more saleable because the parking lot there is no longer needed to be shared because there's no other use there for that facility because the ball fields won't be needed.
And also, one of the other considerations, with our public works department, we are maxed out in space, and there's no place that we can expand. By doing what we're doing, it would give us an additional part of that, so we can do extra buildings if we need to for keeping our equipment out of the weather, workshops, whatever we need. Right now, we can't do it. So that was another thing that came into the equation. I met along with Paul with the gas company, we looked at many different properties, and this just seemed the most viable. The least impact on the environment, any potential problem, because it's not a wetlands area. And the fact that we were going to do away with the two fields, and we could recover enough money to possibly build two more fields, or one very nice field that are made. And not tougher, but we're also losing fields not just tougher. We're putting the other fields down, we're taking the ball fields out of Cottle Park eventually. That will be more multi-purpose as far as large field activities.
But the planning board, as part of their master plan reexamination back in 2007, found that all of the different tot lots in different play areas scattered throughout the township does cost and create a maintenance issue. And the township had looked at closing some of the localized ones, but, did not want to encourage the creation of new ones and actually made findings in their existing land use and recreation plans that, to consolidate recreational facilities, especially the major sport type facilities at Amanda's Field and Caldwell Park, and get away from having I'll say those organized sports at those satellite facilities, at smaller facilities. So that was a finding that the planning board had made many years ago.
Yeah, well, I think that I'll live to regret that. Amanda's Field is beautiful and it's something to be really proud of, but believe me, it really has its drawbacks. Again, kids can't go there without finding an adult to take them, unless they live in that neighborhood.
We can also look, and I don't know, our agreement, we have to look at it in the church, we used to use that for soccer fields and all, possibly we could do something there at the Tuckahoe Methodist Church.
Behind the church.
Yeah. We used that for years, we cut it, we maintained it. And we went to a regulation field, you're looking at put a backstop up and an infield.
Did the company tell you why they changed their plans?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Did the gas company tell you why they decided to relocate the valve station?
We looked at, I guess, what, 6, 7 properties, all at this, and this just seemed to be the best location as far as not impacting the environment, not impacting wetlands. And also, a lot of the properties they looked at were owned by multiple entities. So to purchase that property goes into a lot of deed research.
I don't want to take too much more time. It may be a coincidence, but relocating from Marshall Avenue takes them out of one Pinelands district and puts them in another. Did they tell you that?
No, if that's a real issue.
Okay.
Not an issue of the township.
Right.
It's not a township issue.
That's a
Well, the motivation of the gas company is an issue for this.
So I will say this was my idea, not the gas company's idea. When we were looking at all the properties, I said, well, we have this property, we're gonna do away with it.
Yeah. That was not the property they came to us looking at.
So, just so you're aware, and I'm not afraid to sit here and say that. It was my idea, looking to try to minimize impact and to consolidate the baseball field.
They were actually looking at a piece of property on the other side of the municipal yard, and they were going to need an easement from the township to get to that property. But
What would we have lost if we gave them that property? What's it used for now?
it was actually a private property, it wasn't going to be ours, our
And
property.
multiple deeds from what I understand.
They were only going to need access to our public works yard. That's why they came to us.
I think we can look as a committee into possibly a recreational field.
Yeah.
In the Tuckahoe area. And I don't have a problem with that.
Thanks.
Okay. Yes, sir.
My name's Bob Allen from Seaville. Some of you know me, I've been here before. And I just wanted to, that second here with Mr. Fellows, because
That'll pick you up, you don't need to.
just wanted to ask you some questions relating to the same subjects I jumped in here. I spoke to you about eight or 9 months ago, I lost track, about something that involves this easement question too, and that is generally the question of safety. We've honored some people tonight who did some wonderful things to save some lives. And I spoke here 8, 9 months ago, motivated the same tonight by the concern over the safety issue that pertains to Tuckahoe and anywhere along pipeline, particularly a gas transmission pipeline. I mentioned to most of you, although I think Committeeman Young, Committeeman Coggins were in the audience last time I was here, not on the committee, and I wanted to hand out some information again about potential impact radius. Where that pertains to this issue here for the easement, I'll explain briefly, but I would like to give you each copies of that material. I'll give a third copy to the clerk if anyone else wants a copy from last year or 10 months ago. The bottom line of potential impact radius is that a transmission line of gasoline natural gas coming through Tuckahoe or anywhere along that pipeline is proposed by South Jersey Gas will involve an impact radius of 346 some feet. As you know, some of your sports-minded, that's in excess of an NFL football field. If you run that pipeline along the back road there, down to Marshall, or if you run it on Kendall there, anywhere you run it, you have to figure that where that line, the pipeline is drawn, on either side, there's going to be an impact radius of 346 feet, the equivalent more than an NFL football field. That means that by the back road, this pipeline going through Tuckahoe, in the worst case, would take out all the way over Route 50. It means also it would take out the fire station and our firefighters. It would take our capacity to protect this historic village. It would take out, probably, as I understand, Mr. Fellows and some of his neighbors. But my concern is for this easement, that easement, which I see makes itself adjacent to one of the football fields, and then kind of comes up and lops off another aspect of the football field, is within
baseball.
Baseball.
We're looking at 200 by 200 foot area.
I'm a baseball player, not a football player, but I got a little sidetracked there. This easement area, and then the pipes that would come up, which from the Woodward and Kern report of last year shows 20-inch pipe, a 4-inch pipe, Paul can correct me, there's quite a number of pipes. This is not just a valve station. This is a replacement for the interconnector station.
Well, this is the interconnect station for the for the, correct, but for the 20-inch line, they're interconnecting with the 20-inch line that already goes down in front of the fire company and down Marshall Avenue and down Mount Pleasant Tugger Road. So it's to interconnect with that existing line that's already there.
But it involves the transmission line proposal as well.
Correct, they're gonna connect the existing transmission line with the proposed.
Not only is there a PIR issue from the original 24-inch pipeline that I spoke about last year, or 9 months ago, there are a number of other pipes too, so there's potential here, partly because it's an interconnector, not just a valve station, there's another added dimensions here of safety and problems of safety. And the public works area, as I saw tonight, I went by again just to refresh my memory, holds diesel fuel and other fuel within the PIR. So this is an incredibly volatile situation, I'm not funny. This is a very dangerous situation, and in that situation, the question about the use of the field, although I'm very sympathetic to Mr. Fellows' objections, that's a moot point. We won't have any kids play baseball from that immediate area, in the worst case, of course. So I think, I'm just really appalled to hear in the May 27th meeting that there was a move to have an ordinance drafted. There wasn't any discussion in 7 or 8 minutes in that video, although maybe there was discussion behind the scenes, I hope, about safety factors. But the government's concerned about the safety factors, and they have been raising this. I mean, a number of people have said to me, including residents, including one of the commissioners who actually voted for the pipeline at the end of the Finance Commission, that they don't want to see the pipeline and talk about it flat out. They just think it's inappropriate. And of course, that comes under your jurisdiction. And I would want to ask the solicitor, is this an ordinance that is being prepared now still, or if I could get an update on the status of...
It's being drafted.
Okay, and can you give us some type of time frame where that will come in?
I need more information from the gas company, so I can't tell you.
Well, I understand that. There's also a question which was addressed on the first interconnector station about wastewater management, and the wastewater management ordinances that would pertain here, so they have to be addressed as well.
No, there's no wastewater management issue involved with this.
Well, the 40,000 square feet apparently needs...
You mean, maybe stormwater?
I'm sorry, stormwater.
There's stormwater, but that was being handled on site. That was being handled on site. There was no issue with this.
Within that 40,000?
Yes.
Square feet?
Yes.
Okay. But I wanted to raise mainly the safety issue. I want to recall it to you again. I hope you will look at it. I know there's people who say, well, that's calling wolf. That's not calling wolf. There are 330, in excess of 330 accidents in pipelines in this country every year. Now, that's not quite one a day, but for those of you familiar with public safety issues, public works, that's a nightmare waiting to be happening. You can ask the mayor of Allentown about it, somebody nearby. You don't want that on your watch. And I don't want to see it on your watch, so I hope you take that very seriously. And also, I have questions about, and I suppose this will have to wait for the language of the ordinance, but whose liability is this? I really have questions too. In your section 19, chapter 19.3, you define easement as something that have no permanent structure. The interconnector station will be, for all intents and purposes, permanent. Just as the easement, I understand, in the state will be quasi-permanent, although it's being technically not permanent. Can I get clarification on that?
The easements you're referring to in chapter 19 will deal with utility easements that are not particular or similar to what this type of easement is.
What was the main difference? I don't know if you didn't go over that.
That's for subdivision of a street.
Okay.
And it's for the underground utilities, whether it's gas, electric, telephone, or cable, that would service the individual properties, and it's not similar to...
That is not applicable.
Correct.
It's a guideline when someone wants to set out a subdivision, a residential subdivision.
My question is simply then, further question more important is, what is the liability for the township in the case of an incident that would involve this interconnector station?
That'll be addressed. It'll be addressed in the easement, and the anticipation is that the gas company will be wholly liable for any of their activities on that property.
Okay, so that would be part, you would have some language of
Yes.
that sort, or something.
Yes.
All right, I'll just leave the information about the PIR for the two new committeemen, and I'll leave this, just a copy in case anybody else needs it, I just don't have enough copies. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get to you in a second. Let's finish this and then we'll... Yes, sir?
My name is Dave Laurel. I'm the president of the Bayberry Code Condominium Association. I'm here tonight to speak about our taxes, along with our board members and our residents. Bayberry Code is a condominium association, a licensed condominium association. current rate, our taxes are approximately $400,000 a year coming to Upper Township. We do not receive any services from Upper Township, nor do we, actually our taxes have been going up in the last few years. When Storm Sandy hit, we lost several units. We had to pick up a brunt of the damaged units with assistance from the condominium association. And the reason that we're here tonight is we want to know why that we can't get some type of service to assist us with that type of tax rate that we are paying in the association to the township, and or a reduction in our taxes.
I will turn it over to Mr. Young, who is...
Two things. Your taxes are set by the assessor, and you each have a right, because your condominiums, each owner has a right to appeal those taxes if they think they're not assessed at their market value. And the market value is the land and anything attached to the land. And there have been appeals in Bayberry Coast. Some people have gotten released, some people have not. So each individual owner, if they don't agree with their taxes, each year has the right to appeal their taxes. In addition, between October 1st of each year and the end of the year, the assessor has been looking at informal requests for people that think their taxes are out of line with market value. Historically, campground condominiums such as Bayberry Coast, there has been, among the owners of that condominium, has been some confusion, because when they were originally purchased, there was a false assignment, an incorrect assignment, not intentional, I don't want to say intentionally false, but an incorrect assignment of land value compared to the trailer value. In other words, land values were artificially kept low, trailer values high, so that the tax bill would be low. Well, what happened in the last revaluation, 2005-06 in that area, they corrected that. So a lot of people in condominiums such as Bayberry had an adjustment in their taxes to reflect the true value of their land portion of their condominium unit. So that explains the taxes. Individual owners, the association can't get an adjustment for taxes. Individual owners have to address it either with the assessor or the county tax board. Secondly, you are a campground. Because you are a campground, you are deemed under state law to be similar to a business, such as ShopRite. So there's limited services to business as opposed to year-round residential communities. You're a seasonal campground under the state law. I guess in the mid-2000s, may have been before your time, but Bayberry had an attorney and wrote, and there was a legal opinion issued from the township it wasn't my opinion, it was a different solicitor, but an opinion that recited the various legal ramifications of that, and frankly, it's not the same as a residential year-round community or an apartment building, because it is a seasonal campground. It is considered more akin to a business. And that's why you don't get the services that other people would get.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but also, are you guys familiar with the Municipal Service Act that has been...
And that doesn't apply to seasonal proprietary campgrounds. It does not apply. That was the legal opinion back in the late 2000s. The clerk can get you a copy of it. I don't know who your attorney is now, but the attorney then had written a number of times to the township, and a 3 or 4 page legal opinion was issued.
And there's no consideration that would be considered being in the amount of taxes that we paid, other than what you just explained.
We certainly have to confer with, the folks that have the responsibility for public works and how that would fit into the system. However, understand one thing, we follow the state statute. We certainly have had, and you certainly have every right to come and appeal to us. The tax base is something that's set, as Mr. Young said, by assessment, and we, follow what the statute has to say. It could be that we could have a workshop and talk about it, but that also has ramifications beyond just your property, and that's why...
You would have to do it to every campground, and it would have to be a decision to do that. You may also be, other businesses in the township may say, why, like ShopRite would say, why do you pick up their trash and not mine? There would be things of that nature.
And so that we have to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Committee. Appreciate you having us here to talk to you tonight. My name is Pat Walsh, I'm the president of Oak Ridge Condominium Resort, and I have kind of the same plea that my friend Dave has. I'm going to take a little bit different approach, but
Try anything, it's okay.
I'll try anything else. But I don't know if you know, if any of you have visited Bayberry or Oak Ridge. I'll tell you what, I've been down here 20 years. We love Upper Township, we love Memorial. We have a great bunch of people in there. We've made so many gains. It's not a campground, there are no tents. We own our property, we own our homes. We maintain them. We're improving our facilities every year. We're paying more taxes. I don't think anybody owe any taxes from Bayberry or Oak Ridge. That's our main concern, is that we are not getting anything in return. We're not asking a lot, we're asking for something, okay? We are good neighbors, we really are. We support the fire company, we support when they have fundraisers. Olivia, the young lady that had problems a couple years ago, we had fundraisers for her because we wanted to. We felt that we wanted to help somebody in your community, the stores in your community. Whatever you have in Memorial or Upper Township, we try to give our business to them, contractors, etc. We comply with township rules and regulations. Our manager, John Adidian, makes sure that we do that too. And we do. We try to abide by all your rules. We have swimming lessons for our own kids. We have swimming lessons for the neighboring kids. We just feel that Oak Ridge and Bayberry Cove, really, if you would just think about it and try to give us a hand somehow, whether it be a tax break, a trash collection, or whatever, it would be more than appreciated. We suffer at home in our own homes, but we consider this our home also. And we hope that you will consider us as good neighbors also. And if there's anything you can do for us, we would be more than appreciative. I think that's all I have to say.
I think you did it very well.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. So I see that we didn't actually follow what I had asked, but that's okay. All I ask is that we are courteous with everybody. We don't need, I understand everybody's emotional and they want to support what people say, but there are a lot of, sometimes there's people who have opposite opinions, maybe not this evening, so I'd ask that, before we have rounds of applause, we listen, that you give everybody an opportunity to speak as well, so.
They had an opportunity to speak.
My name is Don Menier, I live at 9 Putnam Avenue, I'm in Stratmere, and I'm here to talk about the number 12 on the resolution was from the septic issue that we were discussing. I think rather thoroughly. Unfortunately, I chose a seat in the back of the room and seats in the front. My advanced age is taking its toll on my hearing, so I can hear all the discussion about it.
Hold on 1 second, so we can. I want to give you a fair opportunity so we can hear it.
I appreciate it. This usually is the effect I have when I stand
You should have spoken many hours ago.
Just a few more seconds. I think most of the people are exiting, so, and then we'll give you, ample opportunity to address the township committee. So as you look around this room, you'll see typically the audience are about the numbers that we normally have. And that's when I, had stated in the beginning, there was certainly some issue that brought a lot of folks out this evening. So they certainly have made their point, and they were here with a lot of support. So without further ado, can I ask you to say your name? I know you said Strathmere.
My name is Don Rainier, and I live at 9 Putnam Avenue in Strathmere, and I'm a year-round resident, have been a year-round resident since around 2002, when I built a new home in Putnam Avenue. As you, I think, have read the letter, you could probably feel the frustration that we have as the neighbors over there. There's been a number of incidences where people have violated the environmental laws of the state by illegally building land and then going and getting permits, and the state really not even finding them, just telling them to go get a general permit for wetlands fill, which is kind of incomprehensible to me. And as you know, Strathmere is probably one of the most environmentally fragile barrier islands in the state, maybe. The narrowness of it and the fact that the bed and the ocean are pretty close, 3 blocks maybe at its widest. And as a consequence of that, the water table is quite high. In this case, I won't belabor all the details because I understand your basic position. But the water table is quite high, and this septic system did not perk. And that's why they're going for this TWA application. In addition, there's also a distance issue. The statutes require 50 feet between 2 septic systems. There's only like 20 feet between these 2 systems, which is very scary to us. And, I have some pictures that I'll just let you take a look at. This was the area before it was illegally filled. Dutch were floating around there for quite a bit, and this is the next neighbor who lost their septic system during Sandy, so if you want to just take a look at those. And, while you're looking at those, and that just gives you some background. I know that's not the gist of why you went ahead and passed the resolution, but I think there's a more important issue that I'd like to raise. And I really think that what you did was a mistake, but I'll tell you why. The certification, I've read it, it's a very broad certification. It says you're certifying that this project meets all of your ordinances. And I don't think that that's possible that you can certify to that, because my understanding is that you adopt a building code by an ordinance, you adopt subcodes by ordinance, so they're effectively ordinances of yours. There's been no building plans submitted. You don't know the height of the property. You don't know whether that's maybe a variance that might be required or not. So I don't know. I think it's rather dangerous to sign the certification that broad that you can say that without more details. And so I would ask that you reconsider that motion, or alternatively before this form is submitted, have your attorney contact our attorney to maybe further and perhaps better explain our legal position. I see the engineer shaking his head. The building code is not part of your ordinances?
No, that's a subsequent process to this. This has to be gotten before he can apply for a building permit.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that. I read the certification. It's a pretty broad certification. I don't know that you're obligated to fill this section in at all. I mean, I think
you're correct. We don't have to fill this certification out. Actually, if he submits this without the certification, the DEP will review it and approve it.
Yeah, I think that's the wiser course, because implicitly, by your signing this off, at least we in the neighborhood feel that you're approving of some of the bad behavior there. We know that that's not your intent, but and I think that's the inference that the state may get when these things go up. Everybody's fine with this project, but you really don't know the full scope of it. I mean, it talks about 2 bedrooms, and everybody's a little bit suspicious of putting a 2-bedroom house right there. And really 2-bedrooms, how many stories is it? And it doesn't qualify.
If I may, all of those issues, the height, the setbacks, all of them, those issues will have to comply with the ordinance, otherwise a building permit won't be issued. So that one, the certifications that the DEP is asking for is merely whether or not the proposed use on that site requires any other municipal approvals.
That's not what that
Well,
certification...
whether or not their proposal violates one of our ordinances, and it doesn't. As long as they comply, just like anybody else, and have a building that, if you wanted to take an extreme example of that, but then we would never be able to help anyone in Strathmere build a new house.
No, well, first of all, as Mr. Dietrich said, you're not obligated. DEP can make an independent decision based on whether or not the septic system should be approved. They don't need your input. You're not saying that it's a good septic system. They don't need your input. Secondly, it doesn't say that it's violating. It says that it complies with all your ordinances.
The proposal complies with our ordinance, and it does.
I don't know, I mean...
There's nothing proposed that's...
Hold on, let him answer, and you can answer, go ahead.
There's nothing in their proposal that violates any of our ordinances. I would not allow the Township Committee to sign that certification. We've probably done 24 of them in the last 10 years. You can't get a septic system in Strathmere without one. I understand your concerns. Your concerns are other concerns that are not impacted by this, and they're valid concerns, and they should be raised to the appropriate authorities. But this is not the forum for what you're concerned about.
With all due respect, you just said that you can't get a permit in Strathmere without foreign findings. And I think you can get a permit in Strathmere without the Township Committee.
I'll defer to Mr. Dietrich on that.
The health department is not issuing any permits in there because they can't comply with the distance separation. Years ago, did the health department approve these and waive certain setback issues? But they stopped doing it because there were so many different complaints from neighbors within Strathmere that, oh, you're technically not complying with the distance between two septic systems. You're not complying with this setback. So the health department said, fine, we're not going to issue any more septic systems. We're going to require them to get a treatment works approval. And this has been a standard thing that any new septic system requires a treatment works approval over in Strathmere.
I don't think you argued it. I thought you said a few minutes ago that you agreed with my comment that the Township Committee did not have to do this. Because this is not with the Health Department. This goes to Trent, to the DEP, and it's part of the application process. But if it's not submitted, it doesn't stop them from reviewing this application.
But we routinely do this, and if we decided not to do it for this one, then we'd be arbitrary and capricious in saying, we decided not to sign it for yours, but we did it for the other 10 or 12 that before you.
Well, again, with all due respect, I don't know that past behavior necessarily, if it was not correct, or if somebody didn't raise the issue, that should guide you going forward. I mean, I think that when you read the language of that certification, it's a very broad certification. I don't know if you have that form in front of you, but it might be worthwhile reading.
I've read it, and
I actually read it to the Township Committee when they decided to vote on it.
Okay, I apologize for not hearing that.
And I've reviewed the entire application package, and there's nothing in there that violates a township ordinance.
I'll just sit down in a minute, but what about my point about the building codes and other, there are not ordinances that you have?
At this level, we don't regulate the building code.
But
When the
certification says that this complies with all your ordinances. And this project is really about building a house, right?
Any house built in the state of New Jersey has to comply with the building code. That's a requirement. They won't get a building permit if they don't submit a plan that's going to comply with the building
There is
code.
no certify now that this project, this house...
That's not part of what the certification is requiring, is whether or not the house is going to comply with the building codes.
I think I've made my point. I hope that you reconsider, or at least direct staff of the township not to submit this until you've had some time to think about it, or submit it to, or have a discussion with our attorney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Adam Bauer, and I, along with my mother, own the property at 10 Randolph, and I'll be brief because my neighbor has spoken as well for us, and our letter stands for us. I'm a little nervous speaking in front of this group, but luckily it's a smaller group. I just wanted to let you know our frustration, because we have worked with the state. I understand, our engineer and our attorney told us the same thing, that this is not the jurisdiction, that they just sign off on it and send it to the state. We've been working with the state for 5 years now. They have a CAFRA permit. We've appealed that permit. The state tells us it's the county that deals with the septic. The county tells us it's the state that deals with the septic. Nobody is enforcing this 50-foot rule, and it's a rule that is in the 197-page manual that I've read from front to back, and I just don't understand it. 50 feet is 50 feet. It's 22 feet separation from their septic tank to my septic tank. My lot is 4.01. You mentioned something about subdivisions. This was a subdivision. It was one lot in 1985 by my grandmother, subdivided into 2 lots. I don't know if that fits as a subdivision, but it did have some weight with the state, which made them get a cap ride.
It's not germane to the
Right.
township's responsibility.
I know, but I just want to appeal the frustration level. The state tells us one thing, the county tells us one thing. We look to our local people to stand for us. And that's what I've learned in school, that government is there for the people, and it just makes me sad that there's not any help for us in this situation. Hurricane Sandy, as you saw, wiped out my neighbor's septic system. That neighbor's house was planned properly. The house was flipped. The septic was in the front, the house in the back. Ours is septic in the back, the house in the front. They have that option. They had the option to flip it. Nowhere in Strathmere have I found back-to-back septic systems. They're all flipped. It's all been planned so that the 50 feet rule is complied with. So that's really all we're asking. I know this isn't the forum. However, let me tell you this is the only forum that has let us speak. The state does not let us speak. The county does not let us speak. So I just wanted to get that up there.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Not that we, as this body, has the ability to do this, but if the design of the septic was flipped, would that make everybody?
I don't know if it would make everybody happy. It would make my mother and I happy, because the septics, if another flood comes through and hurts their septic, flushes into ours, they could both go down, etc. And also, I don't have to tell you, they're putting a house right next to our house, 10 feet away. It's going to look like Ocean City. House. We like Strathmere because we have that open space. We can look to the beach. If the project goes through as it is, we will not be able to look to the beach. There will be a house blocking every window of our house.
Okay, I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
I know.
But you had stated earlier that your grandmother's subdivided the lot to begin with. And so you built your lot, and they sold the other lot to someone else, and now that other person can't build on it?
True, yes. My father built on this lot. You're right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. However, if you go further into the CAFRA IP, it's basically our engineer and our attorneys told us that they were subject to impervious coverage, and they basically said whoever was the first one to build would have a better chance at building. And my father was more advantageous than my cousins. My cousins own that lot. So.
There's no advantage to being first. The impervious and the impervious, all
We're finding that out
individual
now.
lots.
We're finding that out now. 12 years ago, we were told the quicker you get your house, the better.
So it sounds like you were given misinformation from or your family was, whoever made it.
It could have been.
Okay, because, I mean, we have to be fair to everybody. The person that went and purchased the lot that was sold by your family, okay, has every right to build just as.
However, let me just throw this out at you. Just to let you know, the person who signed the paperwork that said that he is the owner of this lot, so he is not the owner. I checked the deeds last night. No deed has gone through.
He's a contract purchaser, and
Okay.
that makes him,
Right, contract purchaser.
he makes him eligible to submit this form in this application.
Right, yeah. And also, I just want to remind that in 2008, it was illegally filled without any permits. My father followed every permit. He went to every meeting. He got everything legally. This party did not. So that's all. I mean, thank you for hearing me, and
Okay.
I just, if it comes up and there are things at the local level, if you could just, look at them as scrutiny and apply the law, that was really pretty much what we, would hope for. So, and it is 50 feet.
I can assure you, they'll have to meet all the setbacks, all the height,
Okay.
impervious, or they won't get their permits. If they don't get their permits, their septic's not valid.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then I'll go to you.
Melissa Lynch, 2028 Trevor Road. I just wanted to go back and touch on number 2 on the agenda. Unfortunately, my partner and I weren't here when all the gentlemen were acknowledged from the dump truck accident. First and foremost, the 2 gentlemen from the construction company are hands down the heroes in that story, so let's make that clear. If it wasn't for them, if it was a half hour later in the day, it could have been a completely different story. But it wasn't just the 2 of them. There was an entire crew on that dock that day. And if we're going to acknowledge and, if we're going to acknowledge these people, then we need to acknowledge everybody that was involved. So in addition to those 2 guys, Aaron and Jason, You had Nick Gorman, his son Chris, Mike Noriega, John Sauer, Mike Nelson, Tom Ensman, Kevin Grace, Brian Flanagan, and Adam Jacobs, and Brandon Ray, who was their safety manager. These guys on that dock were wonderful. They told us where we could and couldn't go with our equipment, while the other gentlemen were in the water. They said, you know, they told us where to park, what docks we could use to get our equipment down there. So they should be recognized and acknowledged as well. Next should come Beadle Care paramedics, who I can only assume by divine intervention were already on their way to Member Township for one call when that accident happened. So they were the first responder or EMS unit on scene. Misty McNulty and her partner, Randall Bishop. They were the first ones on scene. First EMS before Station 15, who I know had their acknowledgement earlier. You had, let's see, myself, Michelle Sampson, Pat Dugan, Eileen Gannon, Patty Kravitz, Perry Coker, Joe Rapici, all volunteers from our department there as well. And they deserve some acknowledgement as well. In addition to our other volunteers who, while we were handling that, we're handling a structure fire in Tuckahoe. You have the multitude of state troopers that were there, from teams to the dive unit, to the Woodbine guys, to the Parkway guys. They deserve some acknowledgement too, along with the crew from Penn Star 2, which was the helicopter crew that transported the patients to the hospital. I just think that everybody should be acknowledged. I'm not saying bring everybody up here and give everybody, you know, a proclamation or anything, but if we're going to set that precedent and do that, then let's acknowledge everybody involved.
Well, the precedent was set because that was the information that was provided to us. I mean, you know, we...
Well, where the fire department goes, we're there too.
And I would hope that in no way did I shortchange anybody when I tried to make some general recognition, because I don't think there's any doubt, I hope there's no doubt in any rescue squad or EMS individual that I have always acknowledged all the good work that everybody does, especially you guys.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, there was year after year, I tell you, my wife walks because you came there when she fell and broke her back, and she got to the hospital in a timely manner, so that, you know, someone that went from being somewhat temporarily paralyzed to having a normal life was because you were there in a timely manner. So I get that. You know, and I guess the problem is where do we stop uniqueness for what you guys routinely do as being heroes all the time?
Right, when we filled out the application to be volunteers, it was because we...
No,
because we wanted the acknowledgement, but
if we have shortchanged somebody, we will certainly make it right.
You know, and I'm just here for the people from my department, you know what I mean, to make sure that they get, you know, a pat on the back too. And they are aware that they have the full support of the committee and everything they do. Just,
you know, when we voted after this, and I'm very familiar, as I talked to Chief Potter, through my career, this has always been an issue. And I think maybe it's time for us now to, with all of our public safety heads, is put together a group of people that look at these incidents, review these incidents, and make a determination on who should get formal recognition and make a presentation that way, instead of bits and pieces coming from this person and that person. Because yeah, Chief Potter has given me some extra names. You gave me probably a ton of other names that could possibly be recognized. So, and unfortunately, in these type of situations, you get to the point where when you're out on the scene, and everybody that's out there on the scene that's working together with all these different agencies, really it's the first group that gets there are the ones. They're the game changers. Everybody else is support.
right.
But you don't want to hurt feelings.
Right.
So I think what we should do, and I'll take the bull by the horns with this, is sit down at the next chief's meeting and get one of our public safety people together and say, you know, why don't we put together some type of a recognition committee here for any type of awards or any type of recognition to be given, and then have a fact-finding committee to find out who did what, when, where, and we can address it that way. Because by all means, I know you guys do a great job. I know how you operate out there. I I know that the paramedics were the first units out there. And look at the guys that are working out their own jobs. I mean, if it wasn't for them, that young man wouldn't be alive today. So, I know it's a tough thing trying to draw that line, who gets what. But, by all means, the intention was not to slight anybody. We know you do a great job out there, but, on my part, yeah, there's something we're gonna have to do to try to rectify.
I think generically, when we looked at it, these are the names given to the guys that went in, the order, into the cab. And again, the squad, Jay knows, has picked me up more than one time, and saved my life, having a heart attack and everything else. So, I mean, you always have my support. And I also know that I ran with the squad for a while when I was younger. And a lot of times, and having coached it for years, sometimes you don't get the recognition you deserve.
Right, I'm just saying, we're gonna recognize.
But I tell you what.
Department, I mean, our public safety people it doesn't get better than us. I'm not trying to, stick my nose up there, but the fact of the matter is, it doesn't get better than us. We're a good group of people, so, when we acknowledge one, we need to acknowledge.
So you tell us we need to do a statute?
I think Mr. Barr may have come up with a good solution, because I think, what we can do for the future, let's hope we don't, first of all, have to have these heroic, incidents, but if in fact we do, having some sort of advisory committee on how to recognize, I think would certainly maybe improve the process, because, we're only, in these kind of instances, we're only what is given to us. So the information that's given to us is what we react. I mean, I happened to be there long after I was there. I was only there to make sure, to support you. Obviously, I was not involved with any of the rest. I'm not even implying that. I mean, even being there, what I'm trying to say is even being there, I couldn't tell you who was doing what. I just know that you guys, everybody was doing a fantastic job. You could see that. Everyone was focused and everyone did what they needed to do. And I kind of like the idea that Mr. Barr has here. And I think we certainly have a great rapport amongst the chiefs. And I think that's something that we could do in the future, because I think that they could also have some input in it, so that we're not forgetting individuals. A point well taken. Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Joelle Wentz, and I'm a Bayberry resident also, and I'll be very brief because I don't know a lot about what I'm going to say. I just would like to know what constitutes a campground being a business, or treated as a business.
I'll go to Mr. Young, because he's already...
It's a campground, which means it's seasonal, it's licensed that way, and the state statute for municipal services does not cover campgrounds. And Bayberry Cove, although it looks like a nice residential community, it's licensed, built, and approved as a campground. There's an annual license that Bayberry applies for as a campground license. That's why you can't live there year-round.
Correct. That I understand. But things that our taxes tripled, what is it that we should be getting from the township that we are paying $500,000 taxes to? I mean, why can't, I know rules are made to be broken, and they are broken plenty of times. Why can't the township pay our tipping fee for our trash pickup?
Well, again, from a practical standpoint, I can understand what you're saying, for you personally. I mean, for the Bayberry Cove as a campground. Okay, but what Mr. Young, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but as I understood what Mr. Young was saying, is that we can't pick and choose. So if we do that with Bayberry Cove, that's licensed as a campground, okay, and permanent as a campground, then we have to do it for ShopRite, we have to do it for Acme, we have to do it for every commercial, and I apologize for putting certain entity names, I should have said there's 1 and 2 or something, and every other potential commercial business that we don't currently pick up now either.
So none of the campgrounds in Upper Township have trash pickup?
We pick up, they pick up recycling and bulk trash.
Okay, so if we put, and what day is recyclable collection?
Do we pick up recyclable at?
We don't there because they put theirs in dumpsters, and at this point, we don't pick up dumpsters.
But if all of us put our recyclables out on the street the day of pickup?
No, you'd have to put them in a centralized location, just like you have a centralized location now, out in the front of the facility, but you put it, you're recycling in a dumpster. Many of the other campgrounds have individual cans, and the township comes in and picks up those.
So there is something that we could potentially do for you.
If you could please consider that, I think all of my neighbors who voted out.
Yeah, but you can come out the winter there, because you may have something substantial, that's someone else's. You can say, well, I hung around some quarters, and guess what?
I don't watch the 10 o'clock news because I fall asleep.
But that's something that you have to do, the township already offers that service. You just have to provide the cans out at the recycling center, and then they'll pick them up.
I don't know why that's a big problem for us. I have that whole.
No, and
Bulk is only done at certain times of the month, right?
right, once a month.
Okay, but if we have bulk to put out,
You can put it out, we pick up bulk
see,
to my knowledge.
we've always been told the opposite, so I'm glad I stayed and asked.
There you go, you have a witness here.
I have two witnesses, one's half asleep, but okay, well, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for everything that you do. But I do want to say, we are not like all of the campgrounds, because we own our lots. And there's not a lot of them along Route 9 that own their lots, so I guess that's why.
There's 3 in the township that are that way.
Okay, so. But thank you for considering a little tiny bit.
If you are using a private hauler for your recycling removal, there is a fee that goes with that. So putting your recycling out in a receptacle that was compatible with our equipment would enable you to lose that fee, and that would be,
So I would suggest
I
that.
might be a hero to save us money.
Sounds like you're here, you know what?
Well, thank you, and thank you all for what you do.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, I'll tell you what, I always enjoy the opportunity, as my colleagues do in the Township Committee, to address your concerns and your questions. I realize we don't always give you the answer that you're looking for, but we certainly try our best, and we, in no way try and pick and choose, where we think something should be accomplished and shouldn't be. We try and be fair across the board. So, but your attendance and your input is very important to us. So, thank you for that. And so, since there is no other public comment, we'll close the public portion of the meeting, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Coggan so he can read a statement to go into executive session.
I hereby move that the resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Contract negotiation for GIF membership renewal, Dennis Township Municipal Court Shared Services, and our auditing services, safety and security, and personnel. I also included in my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period is expired.
Second, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Farr?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you all, and have a pleasant evening, what's left of it.